All right. So we, as GMs, all gave our analysis of our teams, and now I wanted to dive into a position. Every video, I want to do a position in free agents in that position, and then we'll talk about a little bit about them. But there's a lot, so not everybody, but anyways. So for defensive end, there's a bunch of free agents available, and I wanted to touch on them. It says Leonard Williams is a defensive end. I guess he plays both, but I would put him more as a tackle, so I'm not going to mention him too much. Jadeveon Clowney. Anybody want to give me one team they think maybe?
Jadeveon Clowney. I had a team for him, and I lost it. Give me a second.
I think he would. I don't have like a specific team, but I have like a team I think he would like go to.
The Jets. That's who I was thinking.
Yeah, like a team like the Jets, the Bengals,
the Jets. I can see he almost went to the Jets last time.
Like a team that will overpay him and let him not show up to practices because they're like
the Jets,
and they just want good players.
What about Justin Houston from Indy?
Yeah, he's getting kind of older. He's what, 32 now?
He's 32 now.
So he's probably looking to go into a contender on a 1-year deal.
Probably, yeah. What about back to the Chiefs?
He could, but I don't know. I don't see that because I think the Chiefs have other issues they need to look at first. And maybe like a Buffalo or there's an NC team. Hold on. Maybe like a Seattle or
fair enough.
San Francisco.
What about Yannick Ngakoue? That's the next name on the list.
I think he stays in Baltimore.
He stays.
His family's close to Baltimore. Baltimore's a pretty young team. I think they'll pay him.
All right. He's only 26. Yeah, like I said earlier, he's young. Yeah. Ryan Kerrigan. He's older than Justin Houston. He's 33. What do you think?
Probably a contender, like Cody said.
Maybe Buffalo. Somewhere like we need pass rush help.
So,
or
does he want money or want a ring?
Ryan Kerrigan wants to start. I don't think he cares about either one of the other things at this point.
He wants to start
off this year because he was a back.
Yeah, Ryan Kerrigan. But the thing about Buffalo is we rotate defensive ends more than almost any other team I've ever seen. So I don't know. There's no like clear starters in Buffalo. They rotate a lot.
I honestly wouldn't mind taking Kerrigan in Dallas just because he's killed us for so many years and pisses me off. I still have him on our
side. Buffalo free agent Trent Murphy. He came to us from Washington too. They made him inactive the last like 9 games of the season. I don't know if anybody's going to want him for what he wants to make. He's good, but he's not. He doesn't win a lot, and he's not as dominant as we wanted him to be. But this is a good one. He was drafted early in the draft. After Mr. Trubisky, that draft, they traded down, got Solomon Thomas. Any thoughts on Solomon Thomas of the 49ers?
He didn't really live up to being drafted that high, is all I've heard.
I think he probably stays with San Francisco. He's coming off an ACL, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get what he wants, so he probably goes back to San Francisco on a 1-year deal to rebuild his market.
He was good before. He was different. He was used to pass rushing, but they used him as like a run stopper in San Francisco. There's a bargain guy, Stephen Weatherly from Carolina. Then there's Everson Griffin.
Griffin should probably just hang him up.
Yeah, he's 34 now. There's Alex Okafor, played in the Super Bowl for the Chiefs. Then there's Danico Autry, who also played for Indy last year. Bruce Irvin should probably hang him up too. He's getting up there. He's like 35 too.
He can still play though, I think. I think he's different where I think Everson Griffin's lost a lot of what made him good. And Bruce Irvin was just so good all around that I think he can still play effectively as a rotational guy. I don't think he's going to make, a big contract, big dollar amount, but I think as a rotational guy, he can still be effective.
Here's like Derek Wolfe is available from Baltimore.
I think he
was Romeo Okwara who won Detroit one game.
Yes, that's it. Romeo Okwara. Benson Mayowa, he played for Seattle. Charles Harris, he's young, but he hasn't stayed anywhere.
So Takk
Uh,
McKinley's an interesting one to me. Do you think?
Yes, that's the next guy, Takk McKinley. All I remember about Takk McKinley is when he got drafted, he was swearing on live TV about his grandmother or something. That's all I remember about the guy.
Isn't he the Falcons DN who is like bragging
No,
about
well,
sex?
yes,
He
but
was too.
he got traded in the middle of the season to the Raiders.
I remember he was like bragging about not having sacks or something to try to get traded. And like everyone
He was, and it worked. He got traded to the Raiders, and he still didn't have sacks. I don't know. He's an interesting prospect. He's super young, but I don't. He just hasn't played well enough.
No, so I mean, he's one of those high, low risk, high reward kind of guys to me. I think
Yeah,
he's intriguing because the tools are there. He's just lazy, I think.
he's gonna have to take a pay cut too, and incentive based contract. Then there's Ziggy Ansah. He's getting up there, but he keeps getting hurt.
Ziggy
He went to
Ansah seems like he should be older than 32.
he went to San Fran, tore his ACL last year. So then there's Vinny Curry from the
not tear their ACL. Jesus.
No, like that whole defensive line tore their ACL against the Jets.
Nick Bosa tore his ACL. Then there's Vinny Curry of Philly. He's getting up there too. Jabal Sheard, he's getting up there too, though. There's an ex-Patriot guy, Cassius Marsh. He's pretty good, but hold on. There's a bunch more I'm thinking about. Mari Edwards from Chicago. He's still pretty young too. He can play.
Yeah, Dwayne Smoot can too. I don't. He doesn't get a lot of love being from Jacksonville, but he's actually a decent player.
He is a good player. There's Noah Spence from New Orleans. Another lazy player, Vic Beasley. He was a first round pick too, but he's been so lazy.
Yeah, he ended up with the Raiders too, which is funny because then he go to Tennessee and then they cut him.
Yeah. About Taco Charlton.
I don't want to talk about Taco. Taco's more like an enchilada.
What about Trey Hendrickson? That's an interesting one. He led the Saints in sacks this year.
He wasn't really a defensive end though. He was an outside linebacker on third down.
Yeah, they play in there.
He played at linebacker. His one job was to rush the pass.
It was. It's like Bud Dupree. I would count him as a defensive end in certain forms, but he's an outside linebacker. He rushes passer.
I like Trey Hendrickson. I just think New Orleans can keep him for cheap, and I think they kind of need to with their cap space.
What about Carl Lawson? We talked about from Cincinnati. He's available.
I like Carl Lawson. I like him a lot. He's got short arms, but he can get off of blocks too, and he creates a lot of pressure for. I mean, being in Cincinnati doesn't help his market at all. But I think he's been a really underrated player since he's come into the league. He's proved a lot of guys wrong.
The Patriots defensive end Dietrich Wise, he played pretty well last year, but they didn't have anybody else. So, let's see.
Amani Bledsoe's intriguing because he's still young and he's
super young. He's only 23 years old. There's a lot of young players at the end there.
Yeah, Randall Carter's a guy I'd like to keep in Dallas. He was an undrafted free agent out of James Madison last year, and he was one of the guys we protected on our practice squad, and he came and asked to be released so he could, because the Colts were going to sign him to the active roster, and he went and played for the Colts for a while and then came back towards the end of last year after they got healthy on the defensive line. But he showed a lot of upside in camp last year.
So now I'm just going to do like pass rushers that are outside linebackers. I'm going to count them kind of. I'm just going to talk about outside linebackers now.
What the hell?
So Von Miller, they're not going to pick up his option and he's going to be available. What do you think somebody like Von Miller goes? This is a bigger name.
My question is, does he go anywhere with the recent charges?
Yeah, like
I mean, I was thinking that too, but it's like he's been so dominant. I think
Beat it
like
down.
Antonio Brown, somebody will give him a shot.
We'll go to
Right,
next
but
week.
Does the
first you gotta
league
wait to see
step
what-
in and do something before that?
like the
Oh.
league come in and say, okay, you're suspended all year, then
They could. They haven't. I don't even think the league has investigated it yet, so I don't really know. What they're doing
Shame
as
on
far as
you,
that goes.
Becker.
Um,
that was a Cowboy, you'd be all over it.
this is an interesting Matt Judon from Baltimore, another young, talented pass rusher. Do they keep him and Yannick, or do they keep one?
I don't think they can keep Judon. I think he'll want too much money.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't they
Wha-
tag Judon last season?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
they
do you think
tagged him.
he
I
ends
don't
up?
think they were even close on the contract.
Yeah,
They're
he
not.
wanted like 5 to 10 mil more. And
What do you
then
think?
So-
He could go.
Jacksonville has a lot of cap space. I could see them making some of these splashy signing spots because they want to field the team that we
Is
got the number
exciting.
1 overall pick X here. And I really hope it's not Trevor Lawrence because I'm tired of hearing about that already. 'Cause everybody's saying it's Trevor Lawrence. And the last time that happened, it wasn't who they said it was going to be. That
Right.
was Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, because everybody said it was going to be Sam Darnold.
And
Now, quick, while we're talking about that, just really quick. Do you think Sam Darnold would be better in the Brown situation than Baker, or do you think he would be as bad as he was in New York?
I think he'd be better. They have a lot better offensive line. You could
Same-
argue they have better weapons, but I mean, it depends on where you're at. They have better running backs, they have better tight ends, but I don't think they really have better wide receivers.
And Sam Darnold's like basically played as a rookie his whole career because he's never really been developed. So like,
And
No.
let's face it, he's changed offensive coordinators every year of his career. So I mean, it's hard
Sure
to
has.
grow changing systems year to year.
And he had one of the worst head coaches, period.
Yeah, I mean, those are all true. I would like the Jets to give him another chance. I just feel like if they develop him, he can be good. But
he shows like flashes
Yeah.
of promise.
like
But then he-
ridiculous plays. He reminds me of Carson Wentz, where they can have plays where they flash big time, but then they have plays where they look terrible.
A lot of his
But-
plays is he has to do things early because one, he either didn't have time, or two, like he's playing. There was
Yeah,
a
they got-
game earlier. I think it was this season or last season where they were playing the Pats, and they were in perfect coverage, and Sam Darnold threw a bullet pass to beat Stephon Gilmore. It was one of the only completions at that point in the season to Stephon Gilmore. It was 2019 on his Defensive Player of the Year, and it was just a bullet. And then the very next drive, he threw a pick, then another pick, and then he lost the ball to a fumble.
And then he said he was seeing ghosts.
Yeah, then he told everyone he was seeing go.
The next name on the list, Melvin Ingram. I know he's getting up there too. Where do you think?
Mark?
No, Melvin.
Oh,
The running back.
No. Outside linebacker / defensive end, Melvin Ingram.
I don't know. Probably.
And
that's
then,
a move. Like with his age, that's a move that like I could see him staying in the division and going to Kansas City, so he has a shot at a title.
It's not a bad pick. Well, because they're going to lose their and Okafor. So.
And they
then-
could also use Passano.
That's true. A younger outside linebacker pass rusher, Bud Dupree. He's going to be available.
We already know where you want him to go.
I want him to go to Buffalo because we need pass rusher and help. But
Weren't they also far off money wise?
Bud Dupree in Pittsburgh, yes.
Well, Pittsburgh can't give him 2 cents, so
Pittsburgh.
It's,
Well, he wants market value linebacker pay, like 14, 15 million. I mean, that's market value for a good linebacker. He's really good at getting after the quarterback. He's a liability in coverage sometimes, but he's quick. He can make up the space sometimes, and he's really good at getting after the quarterback. But sometimes some of those hits are nasty, as Warren can tell you when he hit Matt Moore in the playoffs.
Yeah, let's not get me going on that hit.
The next name on the list is Shaquille Barrett. Does he stay in Tampa, do you think? Do they tag him again?
I don't think they can.
I don't think they
Mm.
can. They have so many other higher priority free agents. Not that he's not high priority, but I think they've got a couple of other players higher up on the priority list that you got Chris Godwin that
Oh,
might have
Shaq
to get
Barrett's priority
tagged.
#1. The GM already said that.
Yeah,
Are they going to tag him again? Is what the question
Yeah,
was.
but that
that's the
tag hit
rumor.
that tag hits at like 21 million, whereas if you tagged like Godwin, you'd only be looking at 13, 14
Is
million.
it this? Is it? It's tagged for a second year, so it goes up, right?
Yeah,
From
that'd be
last
around
year.
20 some million. Yeah.
He's the free agent. Jason Light basically said that he's the free agent they won't let walk. If it comes down to it, they will tag him. Kind of like the
Jason
Dallas.
Light's lucky he even has a job.
So next is like Olivier Vernon of the Browns. Does
Yeah,
he
he's
go
gotta
back
be
to
good enough.
Cleveland? He's getting up there, but
I say he was in Miami and then he went to the Giants and now he's with Cleveland. He's not
Yeah.
a spring chicken.
no, he's getting up there. He's like 30, around 30.
I could
Uh,
see him being a priority
Which,
for them.
by
to
the
stay,
way,
but
at 37, all of these guys being old at 30 really makes me feel great.
Then this is a regular middle linebacker. No, a regular linebacker, Levante David. So if they keep Shaq Barrett, do they let Levante David walk, or do they sign him too?
They're so basically what he said without saying it is they're bringing back 5 of 6 free agents because we do have a large amount of cap space. And he basically said our running back position is secure for the next 5 to 10 years with Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn. So
There
we
you are.
figured that out. It means
Fournette's
Leonard
probably.
Fournette's not coming back.
It means Levante David is if they're going to target 5 out of 6.
But if something changes, like
So if they can't get a deal done with Shaq or David, Shaquille Barrett or Levante David, who do
David
they
said he'd
keep?
take a hometown. David said he'd take less money for
Oh, okay.
staying in Tampa.
Well, he's only played in Tampa Bay. He's never played anywhere else.
Basically, all of Tampa Bay's free agents said they would take less money to stay in Tampa Bay besides Shaq Barrett.
Yeah, because Shaq Barrett knows he can get a ton of money.
Yeah, Shaq
Jack
Barrett.
Barrett wants to get paid. Goddamn.
This is an interesting name to me. Leonard Floyd. He played for Chicago. He was good there. Went to the Rams. He was okay. What do you think he ends up? Somebody like that.
Back in Chicago.
He goes back to Chicago. That's fair enough. Next is an inside linebacker, Avery Williamson. He went to Pittsburgh halfway through the season. Does he stay there? Or does he go somewhere else?
Yeah, Pittsburgh's a really hard team for me to say anybody can stay there because they're like what 100 million in the hole.
I wouldn't mind Avery Williamson as a rotational
Well,
piece in
and
Buffalo too, because he knows the Jets really well.
Well, he
He's-
also had like 180 tackles this season too.
yeah,
and hasn't ownership in Pittsburgh said Big Ben is the guy?
yeah.
So they
Yeah,
have
which
no
was-
leverage in terms of trying to make him cut
Yeah, that
salary.
was really
so
stupid on their. That was really stupid on their part.
They said, well, he did say in that same interview that they would talk about the cap. They would work out the cap space. Like he's the guy, but they're going to work out the cap. So he's going to take a cut against the cap, but I don't think he's going to get less money. I think he's just they're going to work it out so it's not as big of a cap hit. And then there's KJ Wright from Seattle. He's getting older though.
I think he plans on staying in Seattle. He did an interview not that long ago. I think he doesn't. I don't think he leaves.
Then there's Christian Kirksey. Green Bay's not re-signing him.
How'd you miss Hassan Reddick? He's my.
He's not there yet. He's coming. He's coming up.
You're on a different list than I am.
Yeah. And then next is Denzel Perryman from he was with the Chargers. I didn't get to watch the Chargers. Was he any good?
He flashes. I mean, he'll have a really, really good stretch of games and then he'll disappear for a while. I think part of that was he was hurt. If I remember,
Alright.
he's who I'm thinking he is.
Then there's Devondre Campbell from Arizona, Kyle Fackrell from the Giants. Sean Lee, is it time for him to retire? Probably.
He still wants to play.
Really?
Came out and said there's a lot of talk about that because he has a spot on the coaching staff with the linebackers if he decides to retire, but he still wants to play. So I think he's going to try to work out a deal.
Then Jordan Jenkins, I mean, he flashed too. He's good in some situations. I like Marcus Golden. Marcus Golden was really good in Arizona the last couple of years. Good pass rusher. And then Thomas Davis. I think he should retire though. He's getting old. And now
I think he said he was going to.
so I see 3 Arizona outside linebackers / defensive ends. I see Devondre Campbell, Marcus Golden, and Hassan Reddick. Now bringing in JJ Watt, do they bring back either Golden or Reddick, or
They
do
have to
let them
bring
both
one of
walk?
them back. You can't let them both go. I think. I don't think you can let them both walk. I mean, I
Who's
think
worth more in the
whoever you
open
can get
market?
done, you get done, and
So if you were, who do you
looking
think
at value.
would get more money, Golden or Reddick?
Reddick.
They're about the same
Reddick.
age. They're both really young.
It just Reddick seems like he can do more.
Yeah, Hassan Reddick had that like breakout game against the Giants, didn't he? Where
He had like
Marcus, yeah,
five sacks,
yeah.
5 sacks, 3 fumbles, and
They use Marcus Golden. It seems purely as a pass rusher. I think they
yeah.
they they use them both
Reddick
in
can
pass
rush
rusher.
him. And they did. Reddick can rush the passer, but he can also drop back in coverage. I like him in coverage.
My
better
question
than
is, so
Golden.
like with Chandler Jones coming back, is there a chance that they cut Chandler Jones and keep these two?
That's the rumor.
They
Chandler Jones is
could,
super underrated, and I love
but I
Chandler
mean,
Jones, but
but if you go back to 2012 and you leave Chandler Jones on that roster, you got Chandler Jones with 97 sacks and JJ Watt with 95 and a half sacks as the top 2 sack getters since 2012. So, I mean, they can both win. And
can.
JJ Watt, I think, went to Arizona because he won't
But
have the double teams. He was the most double team defensive end
it's a
in the
question
game
about
last year.
age. Both of Marcus Golden and Hassan Reddick are younger than Chandler Jones.
They are, but they're going to cost more too. And
Yeah, and it is.
Well, I mean, Chandler Jones is getting like 17 million a season. It's not like he's cheap. And then there's anyway, you were gonna say something. Go ahead. Austin, you were talking.
I was about to say whoever's job it is to do the Cardinals is gonna have a miserable job doing that. Then I
Yeah,
remembered
they're
it was mine.
Yeah, you're gonna have to figure out who to keep and who to let go. Then there's Grugier Hill from Miami. Was he any good this year, Warren?
I hate that bastard. He was an Eagle before he went to Miami.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, he wasn't amazing. You know, he didn't pop up. You know, it's a name that I'm not super familiar with, and I watched all but 2 quarters of Dolphins games this year. So, he wasn't somebody that was electrifying and getting attention to me. So I don't think he's any, great. I know he was on the free agent list, and I remember seeing the name and going, "Who's this guy?" So he
Right.
wasn't great.
He's the guy that talks a lot of trash and doesn't really back it up.
Then there's Strad Davis from the Lions. He's good. And Tahir Whitehead, he used to play for the Lions, but he's in Carolina now. I like Nick Vigil, but he's not really great at anything. He's just really solid all around. And then BJ Goodson.
That's my kind of football player.
And there's this guy, Correa from Jacksonville. They traded for him last year, but now he's a free agent. There's Neville Hewitt in Awanosor from the Jets. Alden Smith is there. Yeah. Does he go back to Dallas?
I hope so. He started off really strong, and then I think the 5 years of rust kind of caught up to him a little bit. He played well, but he didn't finish as strong as what he started.
And there's Barcavius Mingo we talked about. He's a good rotational piece, but not much more than that. There's Kevin Minter. Didn't they draft him from LSU a couple years ago at Tampa Bay?
Sounds really familiar. So probably.
He's probably gonna walk though, or leave. He hasn't really done that well.
We have a lot of so Tampa Bay has a lot of like free agents, but a lot of them are like depth pieces that aren't gonna like demand much money. So like on paper it seems like a lot, but
it's not really.
Yeah, we have, like I said, we have like 6 priority ones.
Then
And
there's
Godwin shouldn't have been a priority. That's not.
Raekwon McMillan. He used to play for the Dolphins. He plays for the Raiders now. The Dolphins traded him to the Raiders. That's right. Todd Davis, we talked about. Michael Kendricks.
So what do you guys think of Terrell Basham? Terrell Basham.
I've heard that he plays well. It's hard because the Jets defense was so bad this year. It's hard to like pinpoint anybody who played well because as a unit they didn't play well at all.
As a unit, they did not, but I think I like what he did. He was their leading sack guy with like 4.5 sacks, but he only played like 30% of the snaps too. So like he was
Sure.
strictly a third down linebacker, but he always seemed to make a play in every Jets game I seen. He always seemed to be the one guy that consistently
about,
make a play.
Shaquem Griffin,
Outside of Merckx, man.
the one-hand guy. He
I
JPP.
played
think
pretty
he
well.
goes. I think he goes with Shaquille. Wherever Shaquille goes, Shaquem goes.
Yeah, I think so too, actually. And there's
I mean,
Andre
you
Smith
said
and
one hand guy, and I assumed you meant JPP.
No,
uh,
not by his own stupidity. He was born with
there's
those.
two Buffalo linebackers, but they're both those guys are
Oh,
both
was that guy like? Oh, was that guy like? Was like a birth thing?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. It was
yeah.
Shaquille
Oh,
and Shaquille.
I was not
Oh.
familiar with that player.
Yeah.
What
Mr.
about,
Yeah.
They're the
Um,
twins for Seattle.
yeah, he
Shaquille
plays
and
for
Shaquille.
Seattle with his twin. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really
his,
cool.
His twin has two hands and he was just born with one.
But he's a damn
That-
good
to
ball player.
overcome that though, that's awesome. That's
He's
huge.
he's a really hard worker and he's really athletic and he flies to the ball.
Didn't he set like a record for bench press or something too at the combine for his draft?
Yeah,
class?
pretty close. For
Right.
linebackers, he did the most.
Yeah. If you watch the video,
He's just a
like,
grinder though. He
yeah,
just
he
works really
works
hard.
crazy hard. Like he was on the practice squad. Like I think he got cut earlier in the year and then put on the practice squad and then was elevated for almost all of their games throughout the year.
Yeah, linebackers, there's too many. I have to cut some of these out. But what about Matt Milano? Realistically,
He's
where do you
garbage.
think
That
where do
guy
you think he
sucks.
goes? Yeah, fuck y'all. But anyways, where do you think he goes?
No,
I've heard the Browns. I've heard the Browns are interested in just literally scrapping their linebacker core and going and getting Levante David and Matt Milano.
I mean, Matt Milano would fit there. I mean, he's a good defensive player, and they need coverage help. Their
I-
coverage.
the Jets need coverage help at linebacker too, but I don't know if he'd stay in division. But
I
they're
don't
one
think
of those.
so. And
But they're one of those teams that could give him the money that he'd want.
he plays middle linebacker, and he doesn't want to play the bench, and they have C.J. Mosley.
So as a coach, you put your best players out there. I mean, you can learn. C.J. Mosley can play outside. I've seen him do it.
He can play outside. Matt Milano's played outside too.
You
He
just
can
put
play outside.
you put your best players on the field. Best people that give you the chance, or people that give you the
I
best
mean,
chance to win too.
He is better than anybody that the Jets have right now. Like I said, the Bills have two other linebackers, but they're both special teams players only.
I'm
That's pretty much
kinda-
it. Oh, what about Alex Anzalone? He flashed. He did well in some spots and not well in others. He's played for New Orleans.
Yeah, I like him. I think he'd be a good pickup for somebody. And New Orleans is one of those teams like Pittsburgh where I struggle saying they're going to keep anybody because they don't have any cap room at all.
Because they're the worst. They're like 80 million over the cap.
It's terrible. Them and Pittsburgh are really close to each other, and like
There's Malcolm Smith.
so. I did want to throw out there in this video when we were talking about quarterbacks, and I forgot about it. So there's a report today that came out that like San Francisco absolutely hates Jimmy Garoppolo. That's my take
Actually,
off of this because
It makes it seem like it because they're after every quarterback. Like
Yeah.
they don't want Jimmy Garoppolo there.
they called Carolina to ask about Teddy Bridgewater. So, I mean, do you improve there? Maybe, maybe not. Same kind of player. It just really weird to me that they would call about Bridgewater.
Yeah, especially like reports coming out that the Panthers are calling him physically limited. If you're even calling about him, it tells me they don't want Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco anymore. They've called about every quarterback, even quarterbacks not available, like Kirk Cousins. They've called about him multiple times. But what are they gonna? This is the problem when teams come out to do this stuff. What are they gonna do if they can't land another quarterback?
They're gonna trade up in the draft.
They,
They're sitting
mean-
at 12. It's not like they're too far out from going up and getting one of the top 3 or 4 guys. So
no, they're like 3, maybe 2, 3 spots out.
Just,
who trades
I
back?
agree though. I think it's a really bad move because like obviously Carolina's been linked to the Deshaun Watson trade talks, and now you basically lose any leverage of trying to ship Bridgewater over to Houston in a trade package because you basically said he's garbage. You know, it's one thing if you say, well, he's not the
Houston-
fit for our offense. Like, okay, fine, he's a fine quarterback. He just doesn't work. But
Houston
when you
doesn't want Bridgewater though. They don't want Bridgewater.
no, but but once you say that, even if they were interested at one point, now they're not.
I wouldn't even be surprised if Houston just brought in like a bridge quarterback, like Ryan Fitzpatrick or Andy
Bridgewater.
Dalton or somebody. I wouldn't even be surprised if they just signed an older guy, like for a year or two, and they drafted a quarterback with all the capital they're getting.
Hey,
think about
David
this.
Carr, you want to come back and play?
Think about this. If they get Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey, and a defensive starter and 3 firsts, it makes it. I know it's hard right now for anybody who want to go to Houston, but when you have those players, now you have a generational running back. You have a good receiver who can win. You've got starters on
Everybody keeps
defense.
disrespecting Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller.
I know. I mean, Will Fuller's a free agent though. Will Fuller
Oh,
might be
yeah.
gone.
But they're
Um,
talking about tagging him too.
They
so.
are. They are. But yeah, but imagine that receiving core. Robbie Anderson, Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks would play the slot, which is where he belongs. And Robbie Anderson and Will Fuller could be outside. And I mean, that's a good. So you have good receivers. You have a great generational running back. It makes Houston more desirable for a quarterback for young players.
And then it's really funny that like they came out with the story that Houston and David Johnson have mutual interest in playing or continuing their relationship. It just makes it interesting that as soon as they were talking about the Christian McCaffrey trade, then that story comes out. Well, we like David Johnson. We're going to we have mutual interest in keeping him around.
It's interesting to me. The whole Houston dynamic is interesting to me. Like I know they're trying to amp up the price, but like when you've got an offer on the table, like Carolina's making, I mean, I don't know how you say no to that offer.
Houston must be a really bad place to play because it's not just football; it's their basketball team and their baseball team. Everybody's leaving Houston, so like
Yeah, you're not wrong.
there's something in Houston that no one wants to be around there.
But it's like
Yeah, a lot of trash cans and buzzers.
it's the owner. Well, as far as football goes, it's the owners. Like they have some of the worst owners in football. And McNair, like he made some racially insensitive comments, which turned a lot of people off from coming there.
And his son
then-
just doesn't know what he's doing.
And then he made like promises to players, and he's not keeping them. Like Deshaun Watson, even though he compared him to an inmate at a prison, he still was going to stay there if McNair kept his promise and let him have say in the coaching hire. Or I don't even think he had to have say in the coaching hire. He just wanted to be a part of the process. He just wanted to be in on the interviews, and they didn't let him do it.
That and then you're getting rid of his center. You got rid of his center. You got rid of his best wide receiver. You're getting rid of anything that might want to make him stay. He's like, nope, goodbye.
Yeah. He loves JJ Watt. He loves JJ Watt. JJ Watt left.
And then like Texans are also losing like any trading possibility that they did have. Like, oh, Deshaun might play for us. When Deshaun's like, no, I will never, ever, ever, ever play for you again. I will pull a Calvin Johnson. I will just fucking retire. Test me.
Well, he didn't say he's going to retire yet. He said he's going to sit out games, but he didn't say retire yet. But the thing is, like, what is Deshaun Watson going to do if they call his bluff? And I know he's going to sit out games, but is he really going to sit out 5 years worth of games? Because he's got 5
Carson,
years on his contract.
Carson Palmer, and eventually they'll trade him, and they won't get what they would have got for him if they just
Yeah,
traded him. to begin
like
with.
just Carson Palmer. Sit out a season, make the like. Deshaun Watson was the bright spot on that team. Deshaun Watson.
The
was
difference
MVP
between
QB.
Carson Palmer and Deshaun Watson is Carson Palmer actually retired, so he didn't have to pay them back the money. And then he came out of retirement so they could trade him, like Gronk, similar to what Gronk did. Deshaun Watson's not talking about actually physically retiring. In order for that to work, he'd have to retire. So he's not paying them money to sit on the bench. Because every game he misses, it's like
well,
a million.
see,
It's like millions of dollars he's
he
losing.
can report not lose any money and still not play. Like,
Like
my
Jalen
hammy's
Ramsey.
sore this week. My shoulder, I can't play
Back.
this week.
Oh,
Yeah, but so a Jets player did that a couple years ago. The lineman, what the fuck's his name? He came from the Raiders, then he went to the Jets. Then he went to Kansas City. Anyways, he was hurt. He was
Kelechi?
legitimately hurt. What's that?
Kelechi Osemele?
Yes, Kelechi Osemele. He was actually hurt, and they find him. They still find him every day, and the Texans can do that if they want to. Like they could still find him for not practicing if they. All that has to happen is what the shitty fucking Jets did. They're stupid team doctors, the worst doctors on the planet. They looked over Kelechi Osemele and said he was fine, even though his fucking shoulder was off the bone completely. Anyways, they looked at him and said he was fine, and all the team doctors have to do is sign off and say Deshaun Watson's not hurt, and then the Texans can find him if they
the
want to.
NFLPA like investigates every claim of a player getting like charged for missing when there's an injury. After
Yeah, but it's up to the
Jacksonville thing.
but the team can do it still. I mean, yeah, the NFLPA like appealed Kelechi Osemele's fines, but eventually like they got him cut, but he didn't win. I mean, he still had to pay the fines.
But Jacksonville lost a draft pick. Like if it comes down to that same thing.
I mean, they did, but we're talking about Deshaun Watson faking an injury. So if he's really faking, like they have no ground to stand on the NFLPA. Like he's legitimately not hurt. So
But you
Well, here's
can't
the
like
thing,
you
if
can't like
you're going
prove
soft
someone's
tissue, if you're
faking
going
injury.
if you're going muscle injuries, you can't prove that. There's
Yeah,
no way you
like,
can prove,
oh,
my
Jalen
hamstring,
Ramsey
I
be
pulled
like,
a
"Oh,
hamstring,
no."
it's tender, it's soft,
yeah, I mean, but there's no way he can prove that he actually was hurt either. Like it goes both ways. Like they'd have to prove that he was hurt, which with Kelechi Osemele they did, and eventually, I think eventually he did get his money back, but it was a long time. But it's like they proved he was hurt because they had X-rays and they had MRIs and they showed that the fucking shoulder was completely separated, and he had to have surgery on it. But like Deshaun Watson wouldn't be able to do that with a muscle injury. You can't bring proof. Like I told my best friend that my hamstring